FAM loan officers. Welcome to our first interview. This year, 2021, we're all in with FAM. I'm on a mission to help successful mortgage advisors reach their goal in production. We're going to be sitting down with Finance of America mortgage advisors across the country, break down their teams, process, also dive into any challenges they're facing today. We're going to be calling this Funding Billions with Fenoglio. Welcome to our first interview. I'm Chris Fenoglio, Southern California Regional Manager. My guest today is Daniel Gat. Daniel is based out of Westlake Village, which is the greater Los Angeles area, if you don't know where that is. Daniel, I'm really excited to interview you. We've known each other for a little bit of time now. We haven't really talked about teams or diving in. So for me, this is like an honor. For the volume that you've done is really impressive. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read off your stats. In 2019, you did 61 million volume, and the percentage of that 61 million was 68% purchase. You and I are purchase market guys. In 2020, your volume went to 109 million, and the percentage of your purchase was 49% of that, which of course, rates are low, so we're going to refi some of those people, but I can't believe how much a percentage of your business was purchase. Most of the people, they were probably 20% of their volume was purchase. So hey, congrats to you. So let's get to know you a little bit. How long have you been in lending?
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to be here on this first ever Funding Billions with Chris episode. This is awesome. I'm honored. And I started in the business in 2005. In December 2005, I came in as an assistant position.
Okay.
My knowledge base of the mortgage business at that point was that I knew mortgages were something that people who had a lot more money than me at the time got to buy a home. And that's all I understood about a mortgage at the time. I was running to get coffee for the bigwigs and, putting together Christmas cards for realtors for them, not really understanding what I signed up for. And since the very beginning, I was always ambitious. I wanted to learn. So if nobody wanted to teach me, which you know how this business is, everybody's too busy. I went over to the loan officers that were in the office. I said, let me see what you're doing. Explain to me this, explain to me that. I wanted to learn. And over that time, there came in a short period of time, I think within a couple of years, I felt like, hey, I could do what these guys are doing. And I think I can even do it better. I had a lot to learn still, but that's my humble beginnings into the business in 2005. And I've enjoyed every minute of this business. It's just a pleasure to help people become homeowners. You're fulfilling the American dream for other people, and there's nothing more honorable. It's just a great business to be in.
Yeah, it's great. Our stories are a little similar. I started young too, it's like 2000, end of October 1, I think 2001, and I worked for a guy that was like this number 5 producer in the company. And I literally did whatever he told me to do, right? And I go, I just want to know what you do. And I just listened to him and shadowed him. There was no training, right? He's like, hey, here's an application, figure it out, right? And it was the best way to start in this industry is, a lot of people always ask me, how do I get into the business? I go find the busiest loan officer you can and just go sit with them and go, I just want to hear you, right? Amazing. So, a ton of your production, right? I mean, 109 million is amazing. And let's talk about the team, because you don't have these huge teams. So let's get into it. What does your team look like?
Well, up until a few months ago, it was myself and one assistant. And when I say
insane, 109 million with a loan officer and an assistant. Crazy.
Yeah, well, she's amazing. Martha Guevara is her name, and she's absolutely amazing. There's no way I could do this without her. I tell her every month, let me know when you want to quit because I'll plan my retirement. I can't do this without her. She's amazing. We spent countless nights working till 2, 3, 4 in the morning every day on the phone, pushing files, getting it done, just burning the midnight oil. I mean, we worked I would say on average 80 to 100 hours a week last year without a break. But that's what it took, for 2 people to handle this. I'm then in the last few months, I added a junior loan officer, brought him on because I realized it's not sustainable to do, that level of business with just two people. But and my junior LO, I'm kind of training him, and now he's taking over some refi business. I'm not yet comfortable letting go of the purchase business, which loops back to one of the comments you made about my percentages of purchase business. And ever since I started in this business, I recognized that there are there can be multiple models of how you handle this mortgage industry, and there are people that are just known for the refi guys, or refi gals, and
Yeah.
they crush it in a market like the one we're in, but it's a harder business model to sustain. So for me, I never really actually even cared for refis. As a matter of fact, all the refis I did last year, I didn't call one of those clients. They called me. I never reached out to anybody. Actually, my whole career, we'll get into this further later, is that I've never done any marketing. I've never asked for business. I'll tell you how I got, it's a way I practiced that got me to this level. But purchase business has always been my number one focus. It's, my client is the realtor, and I need to make sure that realtor is happy. They know that if they give me a client, I say your client's pre-approved. 100% of the time I close. In 16 years, I've yet to have a loan denied that I haven't, either if it's been denied, I found a solution, a workaround, but I've never let an agent down in my entire career. So they know if I say their client's good to go, they're getting paid for the work that they put in. And that's the relationship I have. And that's really everything to me, because I if rates are 6%, I'll still do 50 million in business.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's evidence with your purchase volume. It's crazy. When I pulled the purchase volume percentage, because I was looking in our region, I was like, and I was like, holy shit, Daniel. I was like, this guy crushed it. Like, because I also looked at the previous year too. I was like, this guy's amazing. Like, what it takes, which is awesome. So quick question. At what point or volume did you hire your first assistant? So let's go back, right? After being an assistant, and now you came to the point where you're, all right, I'm a loan officer. At one point do you go, I can't do this myself? And explain that.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a perfect recollection of this, but I want to say it was somewhere around doing, 60 plus units a year.
Okay.
I started feeling like I needed help. And I think at first it was a situation where I was sharing an assistant. Like I had an assistant that somebody else that was a higher producer than me had. And it was like, okay, you can utilize my person. I was part of a team and utilize my people. And then it really was probably when I started hitting about 40 million, and the volume that was coming along with that 40 million was also probably about 80, 90 loans in volume, that I wanted to have a full-time assistant. And it was hard for me because I am a control freak, in the sense that it was me that got me to this point in my career. It wasn't coaching. I never did coaching. I never did advertising. I never did anything. It was just people wanted to work with me because of the way I deliver. And so whenever I thought about letting go of something, delegating, which is, a big important part of becoming bigger in this business, is you have to delegate. It scared me. It scared me to delegate, because I always thought, well, these people want to work with me. They don't want to work with someone else. And to be honest with you, even last year, my assistant was in the background. She wasn't really communicating with my clients. It was all me with the clients. She was helping with the process, and occasionally maybe sending an email here or there to follow up on some piece of paperwork that we were trying to get. But I really, the one thing I've learned most recently after going through a year like 2020 is that you must learn to let go and delegate if you want to grow in this business. You can't hold on to everything. If you want to, that's fine, but then don't expect to grow. You're going to hit a limit where there's only so many hours in the day, and that's where you're going to stop the growth of your business. And if you want to keep going, you got to build out a team, delegate, be willing to give up a little bit of money, give up a little bit of control. But in the grand scheme, it's going to work out that you're going to end up getting even bigger than where you started.
That's awesome. So let's dive into that, because people want, like most LOs across the nation, they want purchase business, and you do zero marketing, never reach out to anyone. So what is it? What is the attraction? And how did you get going doing purchase business? One, and then how are those clients so just involved into, I'm working with Daniel, he's my guy, the realtors? I mean, it sounds like you are the show, right? And I want to know that. Like, I want to know, what does that look like? And then the other part I want you to answer this is, so when a borrower calls, I'm referred by Sally, right? Do you send them directly to a link to apply, or do you build rapport right then and there when you take that conversation, when you take that call? So
yeah, so let's hit on all those points. We'll start
okay.
from how did I start with the purchase business? And I will admit something. It's funny, actually. I was talking to a friend of mine, a former colleague, this morning about this, and we both started from the same company. And actually, a lot of the guys that I work with in my Westlake Village office, we all started at the same company called First Capital Mortgage. we thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, but it really wasn't. Once we left the company, we realized that they're not operating anymore. So I don't mind saying this about them, but the huge advantage that they had for us as people that were getting into the business was they were the in-house lender for Coldwell Banker. So we were literally, I was in the Coldwell Banker Santa Monica office, the one on Wilshire Boulevard and the one on Montana Boulevard, after being a few years in the business. And I've, got myself to a point where I said, hey, I want this. And the guy that was in those offices was leaving the company, and they gave me the opportunity to go in there. Now, I will admit that this is a different advantage that I had than most people in this business. And I'm grateful for it, because I'm not the kind of guy that wines and dines his clients or agents. As a matter of fact, 98% of the agents I work with have never met me in real life. And I get referred new agents sending me business every day. Like just yesterday, I got a client referred to me, and I didn't even recognize who the agent was that was referring the client to me. So I don't I don't meet and greet. So in the beginning, I will say that it was all luck of the draw that I worked for a company that had an in-house established relationship with Coldwell Banker, and that went a really far way for me. But beyond that as initial established relationship, I didn't stay at First Capital forever, but I retained most of those relationships, kept doing a great job with the agents I had. I was never one to really ask listing agents for their business either. It turned out that some listing agents would just occasionally say to me, hey, I like what you did on this deal. Can I send you a buyer? And of course, I'm not going to say no. And then it turned out really to be the agents I work with start bragging about me to other agents, saying, hey, if you're not working with Daniel Gat, you're not getting the full treatment that your clients deserve. It was really not me doing anything. It was the service. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's the service level that I give my clients that my agents recognize that they're willing to sell me to other agents and grow my business for me. A perfect example is I had an agent in Santa Monica who was a top producer. He left Santa Monica, moved to Berkeley. Now a third of my business is in Northern California, because he's told every agent in Berkeley area, Oakland area to work with me. And he's getting all these top producers to start sending me business. He's doing it all for me. I didn't ask him to do anything. I didn't pay him. I didn't do anything. It's just he knowing that this is best for them to work with me.
That's awesome. Great. And then, so let's go to the so this is the part where, I got a lot of people that work for me. I do a lot of individual coaching for the team and stuff. And it drives me crazy, because a lot of people apply, they go, hey, call so-and-so. And that loan officer just goes, here's my link, apply. I have those people in my office, and I go, you're going to lose business, right? Do you send them to a link and apply, or do you first build rapport and get them a lot of information right over the phone? What do you do first?
Yeah, I'm in 99% of the cases, I know for sure whether a client's going to go A to Z with me after my first conversation with them. My first conversation will always sell the client. And I'm usually feel better about it if I'm not the first loan officer they talk to. Because if they've talked to other ones, then I already know for sure after we have this first conversation, it's done. Those other guys don't have a chance. So my first conversation is going to be extraordinarily in depth. I'm going to show them, first of all, tell them I'm not in this business to sell them anything. I'm in this business to give them all the information they need to make an educated decision, that they're making the biggest financial decision of their life. And they don't need a salesman on the other side of the phone helping them make a financial decision that big. They need somebody that can help them answer all their questions, hold their hand from A to Z in the process, and know that, hey, 7 years later, you have a question, you can call me 7 years later. I get clients doing that all the time. I will always be part of their process, anything to do with it related to this financing. So that initial conversation, definitely no. The link is the very end of the conversation. That could be an hour or 2 hours later in the conversation. It's going to start with what are you looking to do, and then like tell me a little bit high level overview of what your goals are, your objectives with buying a home, and then it'll be, hey, do you mind if I ask you a bunch of personal questions about your finances, kind of dive into your financial picture, and that way we can try to figure out what you'll qualify for. We'll do back of the envelope numbers on this call, so that even before you give me any paperwork, we'll already have an idea of exactly what you're going to be pre-approved for. And if every number you give me is spot on, then we're going to be 100% with the same numbers when you give me your paperwork. And if we're just, guessing on the numbers, then we at least have a ballpark. And I'll talk to them about, hey, look, banks will qualify you, maybe for a lot more than you want to be qualified for. What payment do you want monthly? Let's back into this as to what price home should you be buying based on what payment you want. Because I've literally told every client the same line. It's not worth owning a house if you have to eat top ramen every day. Right. And that line, I've used it a million times. and it's true, and I think about that. It's because the banks, they'll qualify you at a 50% DTI on a FH or on a FHA 56%, right? But on Fannie Freddie, you could go to 50%, and for some people that's totally reasonable, right? We all have tons of clients that qualify right at the edge, but for some people that's not comfortable. So I really try to understand my client and show them that I care about them, not about getting their loan. I care about them as a human being. That, hey, if I tell you you can qualify for $1 million house, but the payment's going to make it so that you can't enjoy life, what's the point? Let's talk about strategizing what price home. I really want to be an advisor to them. So I build a ton of rapport in that first conversation. And then when it's all said and done, this could be an hour to 2 hour conversations many times. I mean, that's why I know after that first conversation, they're not going anywhere else. Nobody else is doing this. Or very few people are doing this, I should say. I don't know what everybody's doing, right? But then it's at the end, it's okay, look, we got all our numbers together. We figured out what you qualify for. I showed you, I explained things to you, like, let's say they're self-employed and there's things that they don't understand about how banks interpret their income. I get into depth about it. I talk about guidelines. I show that I have the knowledge to back up what I'm talking about, and get my clients confident that if you work with me and I tell you you're qualified for X, there's a 0% chance you're not going to get it. I've never been wrong in this business. And I'm not afraid to tell people that. It's not cockiness, it's confidence. But yeah, that's my role. And then it's here. I'll send you a link after we get off the phone call so you can start putting together paperwork. And I set realistic expectations. I'm really busy right now. So I tell them, when you get me all the paperwork back, it'll be 2 to 3 days for me to finish your pre-approval. And then we'll be up and running. And then I usually follow up with the agent that referred and say, hey, I talked to this person. It sounds like they're going to qualify for X, Y, and Z based on the information that we discussed over the phone. And that way the agent also has a good idea, hey, am I wasting my time, or am I working with somebody who's real? And, we kind of get that perspective out even before paperwork started.
Smart. I'm like you. That first call, I actually make it really easy. I go, look, I just need 15, 20 minutes of your time. And I'll tell you exactly what you qualify for. Right. And they're like, what? Everyone else pushes me to a link. It tells me it's going to take 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, no, I can tell you in 15 minutes what you qualify for. It's really longer in 15 minutes because I start building rapport, right? And then I'm in and I'm like, oh, what do you do for work? I'm a teacher. Oh, my wife was a teacher. I always try to find common ground with borrowers, and it hooks them, and they're sucked in, and then they come to us, and I don't deal with them rate shopping, going to other lenders. And I agree with you. I love it when they talk to someone else and then I have a chance to talk to them. It's over, right? It's over every single time. And they're like, yeah, I talked to so-and-so for 3 minutes. They were super busy and sent me to a link. And I'm like, and a lot of times I feel clients just want an idea. They just want an idea. Hey, is this 750 home even reasonable? And I literally give them payments right then. I go, hey, look, you're looking at about $3,500, da, 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 da. And then we go through it. I literally, what do you do for work? How do you get paid? How long have you been there? What's your credit look like? What's your debts look like? What's the asset look like? What's a comfortable payment? How much are you paying rent? And that's my question. And I just go through that and I just write my notes and I tell them, I'm going to take notes as we talk. And then I literally put these notes on an iPad and forward it over to the team. And my team knows exactly how that conversation went. And what happens is I tell you, it's the consultation. It's not the, hey, go here. It's winning them over in that first opportunity you have, that one shot, that one call. You're going to win or lose a client right then and there. And so when you're brush and you just push them off, they're gone. They're turned off. They're out. So this is the nugget. Finance America Mortgage Advisors, you're listening to this. Daniel does a ton of purchase. I do a ton of purchase. We're very similar to how we take that interview and consultation. All right, let's go to the next question here. You already answered this. Where do you get most of your purchase business realtors? And obviously those realtors refer realtors and your clients refer clients to you. That's why you don't have to market, which is amazing. My next question to you, which you already answered, how do you get them to use you? A consultation. You win them over. So this is a good one. Where are you having the most success right now in your business? What do you think is the most successful thing that is making you put up the numbers you're putting up today?
Well, obviously interest rates are playing heavily on that, right? But who knows? After last week, that we could be seeing the end of that already, right? So we need to be prepared. And I'll tell you, one of the game plans I put out in place for myself, and I'm happy to share this with everybody else because I think it's a genius plan. I think it's going to work tremendously. And if everybody at our company does this, I think they can add another 25% to their business in volume. I've decided that now that I'm building a team, right, and I have this junior loan officer, and I want to hire another junior loan officer actually because I just still don't have enough help that I need. But now that I'm building this team out, my goal is I want these juniors to be updating me on their files every Wednesday and Friday. And what I want to do is, of course, we update our clients and we update our agents. But how many of you are calling the listing agent twice a week to update the listing agent twice a week? I'm going to guess nobody does that. I never did it.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Right. But I'm going to start doing that. And the reason I want to start doing that is I think these low rates, yeah, they're great when they're there, but they're not going to be there forever, right? If you've been in this business a long time, you remember rates when they were in the 5s or 6s. And, even historically, if you take the last 30 years, the average interest rate's still probably closer to 5% than it is to 2%. So what are you going to do when it's a 5% market if your focus is on refi? You really need to push for those extra agents that you have bringing you purchase business. So I have this plan that I want to reach out to the listing agents twice a week, updating them on the process. And that way, at the end of the day, which is something I've never done, asking for business, but when I do ask for business, I've already given them something that they've never experienced with any other loan officer. Right. Holy cow, this guy updated me. The lender updated me twice a week. What's going on? Or he just called to say hi. There's no updates, whatever it is. That's how you're going to get another 25% of business that you're doing right now. I'm sure of it in my head. I'm not somebody who does, I don't run numbers and do calculations. I just look at my life and it's always, I'm doing more business every year. And it's because of choices like this that I make. I don't need to do algorithms to decide if it makes sense or not. If it makes sense in my head, it's going to work. That's something I'm sure of. So this is a good thing for anybody out there. If you want to build up your business, maybe find that extra time, hire another person to take over some of the part of your business so that whatever you're paying that person, you'll make that twofold if you could start doing this and bring on another, 20, 30 realtors a year into your pocket.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love that strategy. I might actually start taking that strategy and start calling the listing agent. Let's change gears. What are you having the biggest pain or challenge in this market? What's the one thing that you're just like struggling with? And I mean, I know time is one, but is there anything else that you can think of?
Time is the hardest thing. I mean, honestly, if I say I work 100 hours a week, I'm not exaggerating to make it sound like, oh, I'm doing all this. No, I'm really working. I'll give you an example. Thursday, I finished work at 7 a.m. and slept for 3 hours and started my day late. And on Wednesday, I think I stopped at 6 a.m. This is not a normal behavior. No other person that was listening to this should ever do what I'm doing. Don't do what I'm working hard. Work smart, don't work hard. So working smart means build out your team, have the right people to support you. There's no challenges other than time for me. Time is my only challenge. I feel like operationally speaking, Finance of America is the best place I've ever worked at. Nice. It's, I love my relationship. I love that, Dawn will pick up my calls, that I got Becky in my office, Becky Brown in my office. The underwriters, I have relationships almost with all of them individually where they'll, I have their cell phone numbers. They're willing to take my calls. They know I don't abuse that at all. I don't call them like 24/7, trying to make it so they can't do their jobs. But I feel like operationally, Finance of America has it down pat. Like my loans move through fast. I had a little bit of a challenge on my processing that's being resolved. We're, expanding our processing team at our branch. But other than that, I mean, it's really just time. It's time. There's no challenges other than that.
So for what I'm hearing is time's one thing. You're a control freak, right? Which a lot of us are. I was a huge control freak the first 10 years of my business, and I could never get past, 60 or 70 million because I wouldn't let go. I was you. I was like, no, I'm dealing with the client. I'm dealing with the realtor. And then I hired the right people, right? And that's the hardest part, is getting the right team members. And, I don't introduce my team as processors or transaction coordinators. I call them my loan partner. I go, this is my loan partner, Shelly. This is my loan partner, Melanie and Kylie, and all the, and they're like, we're a team. And so now they're having a lot of those conversations. And if you ever go look at my reviews now, if you go look 10 years ago, the reviews on Yelp and Zillow, Chris Fenoglio. Now it's like Melanie was amazing, Chris was okay, right? There's like three of those.
Genius. It's genius, though.
Right, and it really helped me go from 60 to 90, 90 to 150, 150 to 300. And I was okay with it. I finally let go and I was like, oh my goodness, but I will tell you this, Daniel, it takes the right person, which it sounds like your one assistant you already have, you love. Now it's getting them and going, look, now I'm going to build that relationship with the borrower. I'm going to get you all the information. But once it goes live, I want you really helping them with the little questions that they have, making sure they understand the disclosures and where the bank account, all that stuff comes from. But I want to go call listing agents. I want to go prospect, right? That's the part where I think you could be a $200-300 million producer with just letting go. So, and hiring the right people. So that was
Yes.
my little coaching tip for you. Okay. What tips do you have any loan officer starting? I'm brand new in the business. What do I do?
Well, that's interesting. So my junior loan officer that I hired recently, some of you may know him because he's been in the business a long time. He was our AE at Loan Stream. I hired Matt Yonda.
Yeah.
And what I learned in hiring Matt Yonda is that AEs don't have the same exact knowledge base as loan officers do, but that's okay because I hired him because I liked the way he handled me on the phone. I thought he was great on the phone with me. His communication was phenomenal. And I thought that was a skill that's very important. Early on in my career, I asked realtors, I said, what do you hate most about loan officers? That was like the question I would ask them all. And literally the answer I got 9 out of 10 times was communication. They don't communicate, they disappear, especially if there's a problem. They crawl into a cave and close the door and they hide and they're gone. And I don't know how to get a hold of them. And so I said, okay, so that's easy. All I got to do is be a great communicator, and that solves 9 out of 10 realtors' problems. So what I would say to most people is, when it comes to your realtors, pick up every phone call when they call. Don't make them wait. And if you can't pick up the phone call, like you're on another call, you're in the middle of something, call them back within an hour. Get back to people fast. Make people think. This is actually what I told Matt the other day. I said, I want every one of the clients you're working with, because I'm giving him all my refi business now. So I'm starting to free myself of that and give up that control. I said, I want every client you're working with to believe that they are your only client. And they know that they're not, but I want that perception to be out there that they are your only client. Smart. I said, that's the model I've given my clients, is that I have them believing that they're my only client. In other words, I have clients call me and they say, hey, we know you're really busy. And my response to them is, if you need 2 hours of my time right now, you have it. You got me on the phone. I'm going to give you every minute you want. I don't care how long it takes. You're important to me. I'll say that. I'll say those words. You're important to me. I mean, so my biggest piece of advice is, my success is due to my service. Give the best service possible to your clients. If you're new in this business, you don't have the problem of too much business, and that's your problem. Your problem is not enough business. So you certainly should have no excuse, being new in the business, of not going above and beyond for every single client, because you should have plenty of time for that. But go above and beyond, because you'll be surprised how many people you close a loan for, and then they tell their brother, they tell their sister, they tell their friend, they tell other people, they prospect for you. So you can spend the time prospecting, or you can spend the time doing the best job possible and let your clients prospect for you, and they will.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing you did mention earlier that I want to point out that I do the same thing is, I actually don't ask for business. There's a lot of coaches and top producers, I listen to them, and they always say, oh, you got to call and ask. And one top producer sends out an email that says, give me 3 names that you think I can do. I am like, I never do that. And I don't know why. It's not like I'm afraid, I got a big personality. It's just weird. It's not me. Right. And right. I notice you don't do that either, but it's so crazy because when you give them such an amazing service, I always say it just comes back. It's tenfold. They're going to go tell their friends, their family members, and you just treat them like gold. And the one thing you did say, hopefully this doesn't get out to the public, is you said the realtor's your client. I actually in those debates sometimes, because I almost feel the client's my client, right? Once the realtor refers them to me, I'm like, they're mine. They're going to give me more business than the realtor is most of the time, sometimes, right? But I treat those clients probably even better than I do treat the realtors sometimes, right? Because then, because I know they know more people, right? They know more people because they just went through the experience. They're posted on social media, whatever. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, congratulations on your home and blah, blah, blah. And they tag me in that stuff. And then that's just evolving. So that's the point that like, I think both of us are aligned on is that look, that client is worth 10 loans to me. I always have thought that one client, they're worth 10 loans. It could be them themselves or they refer me and that refers me. So awesome. Hey, I didn't want to take too much of your time. You answered a lot of stuff. So let's talk a little bit to the fan people. I got some ideas. I want to leave the Finance America advisors a strategy. And Daniel, you can jump in on this too. I want to provide you guys value for your clients. And a lot of refis that we had as of last week, borrowers had they ended up taking out a second along the line. It wasn't purchase money. And a lot of us go, okay, we want to combine it, right? And the first thing that we run to, especially in Southern California, our loan limit's like 822, is we run to high balance conforming cash out refi. Well, that's wrong. If a borrower if they've had an equity line longer than 12 months and no draws on it in the last 12 months, they've just been paying it down, you actually can go jumbo. CIT, Redwood Trust treats that as a rate and term refi. I pick up a lot of business that way where I ask the borrower, I go, how long have you had this second for? How long have you been making payments? And the difference is like 0.5% in interest rate. So I win every single time. I don't know if you're running into that, Daniel, but that's something where I come in and I'm like, oh, you got a $500,000 first, $100,000 second, you remodeled. I'm like, how long have you had that? And everyone may compete. Oh, I get in quote 3, whatever rate they're getting quoted, right? If I treat it as a rate and term refi, make sure they don't take any cash out, I go jumbo with it every time.
Yeah, I think it's important that when you're in Optimal Blue, you have to click that non-conforming button, because you'll be surprised how many investors we have that say any loan over 548, 250 fits in their box, and it's not just over 822. So I did a investment property refinance for a client using I think it was J Class J. So and I was able to get a rate that was like 0.75% lower than using conforming. I mean, it was you have to, don't limit your options. And on another note, also just know guidelines. Don't download those guidelines from the shared net for all these investors, because the more you know as a loan officer, the better of a resource you are. Because if you don't know that, hey, I could use this jumbo product on loans over 548, just as Chris pointed out, you might be giving away business that you're going to have to compete with other people using conforming, and you could easily squash it by just going with a jumbo product. You don't need to give away what you did, just use that.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, hey, thanks again for, standing up most of the time. I think you did, and joining us on this BAM call. This is Funding Billions with Fenoglio. I'm Chris Fenoglio of Finance America. I'll see you next month. Looking forward to the next interview.